So on Second Sundays, we try to every month, but during summer and different seasons, we don't get to do it. But we're back with a Beyond Hello, and I couldn't be more excited because if you don't know this amazing person, this is Leah Sperlin. Leah and I have been friends for, it's almost 20 years. I don't know, 2008 or something like that. So we have done a whole lot of life together, and everyone should know Leah. If you don't know her, you should know her, because this is one of the most precious human beings on this planet. Okay, and now I'm going to make her cry and then make her talk. Okay, so Leah, tell us what you do for your job.
I work with the Warren County Parks and Rec Department. So basically, I wear a lot of hats. The main things that I do, I inspect playgrounds for all your little kiddos, along with Tim. I don't know if Tim's here, but we are the playground people in Bowling Green. I also run summer camps, and then also help run the ice rink as well.
And when Leah says she helps do those things, like she does them, and she's like really awesome at it. So, okay, Leah, first, how long have you been at Broadway on the whole, and then how long have you been at the Greenwood campus?
I think I started going to Broadway in 2016, but I started going to Melrose, and actually joined the church. Laura was a pastor that day. I was really thankful that she was pastor that day. And then I started coming to Greenwood campus, I think after COVID.
I think so. So, like, what brought you to Broadway in the beginning? And what brought you to Greenwood? Let's talk about this community. What brought you to Greenwood?
Well, you partially, because I used to worship with Carla a lot at a different church in town. But I loved Broadway. I started coming to an Alpha class that Scott taught, and I really fell in love with the people and the church. And then I started coming here to worship with Carla, and then the longer I was here, the more I loved it, and I didn't want to leave. So I'm real thankful for that.
So what is one of your favorite parts about this community, this Greenwood community?
I think you guys are just a big family to me, and every time I come through the doors, no matter what I'm feeling, I leave full and blessed and loved, and I feel like a lot of you feel the same way. It's a very special place.
Is there anything else you'd like to share?
I don't think so.
So I will say before I let Leah leave that I said she's one of the most precious people in the world. Leah is also my hiking buddy, my camping buddy, my bike riding buddy, and we've been doing that for a very long time together. And so if there was ever a person that you could say was your chosen family, this is mine right here. I'll take any of you down over her. Okay, just so you know. Okay, thank you, Leah.
Thank you.
Oh, hang on.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Okay, Leah, tell us about the Appalachian Trail.
I was very fortunate in a lifetime ago, about 23 years ago, to thru hike the Appalachian Trail. It's a trail that goes from Georgia to Maine, and it was one of those experiences that always sticks with you. No one can take it away from you. It was hard and challenging and amazing all at the same time.
What if you had to pick one thing about the Appalachian Trail that was your favorite part?
The end.
Good morning, friends. I know that you all know that there is food out there waiting for you. I'll try to stay conscious of that as we're going along. But with All Saints Day last week, we didn't necessarily had a chance to stop and to celebrate the beauty and fun that was Trunk or Treat. We held Trunk or Treat across town at the Melrose campus, and so many of you guys were there, and you were there for different reasons. Some of you were there to serve, like these amazing people who greeted all 700 plus plus people who came through the door. But I mean, like, really, like, can you imagine any better people to greet our community? And then there were others of you who had planned to do a trunk, but of course the weather did not cooperate. And so you did a beautiful table instead. We had everything from the Muppets, which I mean, like, this was spectacular, Jackie. We had camping featuring Bigfoot and a mythical creature or something. I don't know. I heard it almost took out the tent there. And then we even had Christmas, because why not? Cutest little Cindy Lou Who I've ever seen right there. But of course, many of you were there just to enjoy the evening, to bring your kids, your grandkids, your neighbors, to be a part of this event, to of course enjoy all the great candy. I will say, Sammy, my youngest son, really enjoyed kind of like the pace of Trunk or Treat this year, because there was enough time in between every table to stop and eat the candy that he had just received. So we didn't have that much candy to take home at the end of the night. But of course, I love seeing all of the costumes. This is our resident grumpy kitty, what do we call it? Grouchy Granny here. Cutest little grouchy granny ever. And then we had Taco Tuesday, because I'm told there were two of them. So in case you didn't catch the joke, Taco Tuesday here. We, of course, had many princesses that were present. And then as a boy mom, one of my personal favorites is, of course, all the superheroes, right? Emery represented as Spider-Woman, we'll call her here. But I love seeing all the different superheroes. There's so many to choose from. All of them have different powers. They all have cool costumes. But there is one superhero that does kind of illustrate for us the deadly sin that we're focusing in on today. And that is our friend, the Incredible Hulk, right? So can you guess what our deadly sin is today? Wrath, right? Wrath. There have, of course, been many iterations of the Hulk. Over the years, there's been TV shows, there's been movies, there's been like 5 different actors that have played the Hulk up to this point in time. But today we're going to go all the way back in our time machine. We're going to go back to the very first person who played the Hulk, and we're going to listen for what is kind of like the tagline, the most famous saying of the Hulk in this clip.
Don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Don't make me angry. Like me when I'm angry, right? Has anybody ever, yeah, Jeremy says that's true. Has anybody ever tried that line on your children? And if so, how did it work, right? I'm considering it. But, you know, I think there's something about that line that resonates with all of us. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry. You know, within our society, we have kind of been told that this is one of those emotions that's not socially acceptable, that we really should not show anger. If we feel it, we should kind of hide it away, keep it deep inside, try to reason it away. However, the truth is, we are all going to get frustrated. We are all going to get upset. We are all going to feel the emotion of anger. And so, how can we express anger in a healthy way? Well, the answer is not to suppress it, not to ignore its existence, nor is it to go to the other extreme that we see in our friend, the Hulk. The answer is not to let this emotion dominate. It is not to go directly to Hulk smash. The answer is not wrath. Wrath is anger that is uncontrolled, that bends toward vengeance. It is eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. It is you hurt me and I'm going to make it right in this moment. It is lashing out with our words, with our actions. It is striking back when we have been bitten. Now, if we're honest, like when we do that, when we kind of like respond right back, it can feel good for a second. Like, okay, like if you kind of zing somebody back. If someone insults us, it's easy to pop right back with some kind of jab. And it's easier to do that, right? Like it's easier to have that kind of response. But I am a child of the 90s, which means I come fully equipped with a long list of comebacks. that I perfected in my youth. Maybe you'll know some of these and you can help me, and we can even add to the list if you'd like. But what about this one? I'm rubber, you're glue. Yeah, whatever you say bounces off you, bounces off me and sticks to you. That's right. Or, there's this one, takes one to know one, right? Or inspired by the movie Clueless, this one even has hand motion. It's like, whatever, as if, loser, right? Or perhaps the most annoying comeback of all time that can go on forever. It's like the song that never ends. Like you could use this one until Jesus comes back again. But someone says something to you and you say, I know you are, but what am I? Yeah, you knew that one? Yeah. Anybody got any others that are just like low-hanging fruit? Talk to the hand. Oh, that's a good one. I left that one out. Anybody else? La, 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 I'm not listening. That's good. Slow your roll. What you got? What do you got back there, Sarah? Who asked? Oh, that's good. Like, I don't need your opinion. Right? I like it. What was that? That's what's the last time. Yeah, like we won't even go down that train, right? Like there's a lot there. There's a lot there. Yo, mama. But whether it's with our words or our actions, when someone else causes us pain, we want to react in a way that makes them pay. However, how many times have you heard one of those comebacks like actually de-escalate a situation? Never, right? And how many times when we lash right back out, does it actually solve the problem? It doesn't, right? The truth is, if nothing changes, nothing changes. When we repay evil with evil, what is the result? It's just more evil. As Barbara Brown Taylor has said, evil is never satisfied with controlling one side of a situation. Its goal is to infect everyone involved. Evil goes to pull us all in. And this is why so many of the Proverbs warn against wrath, against this uncontrolled anger that bends toward vengeance, because it simply does not work. It defeats us again and again and again. It keeps us from moving toward that target of the full and abundant life that God so desires for us. For example, Proverbs 29:11. It's pretty blunt, as the Proverbs can be. It says, fools give full vent to their rage. And then it goes on in verse 22 to say this, a man of wrath stirs up strife, and one given to anger causes much transgression. It just simply doesn't work to let anger dominate us any more than it works for us to suppress our anger. So, what can we do with our anger instead? This is where that virtue that Andrea spoke so beautifully about earlier comes in, the virtue of patience. Every year at our early learning center across town, our kids learn about the fruits of the Spirit. And I think I've got a picture of these cute kiddos. Aren't they precious? I think we have 220 kids enrolled at this moment. We have a wait list for most of our classes, which is why we're dreaming about expanding here and offering childcare on this side of town. But every year, like I said, our 4-year-olds that are getting ready for kindergarten, they learn the fruits of the Spirit. They get up at the end of the school year and they stand up before all of us and they teach us about these fruits. They tell us the definition of each of the words. And I will be honest, I do not remember any of the definitions except for one. There's one that I never forget, and it's on patience. In patience, they stand there and they're very proud and they say this with all the confidence in the world, but you can tell they're maybe not buying it, but they say in unison, patience, I can wait, right? Short, sweet, to the point. And it sums it up pretty accurately. Just those 3 little words. It's not only a good definition for us, but it's also, I think, a mantra that we can repeat to ourselves whenever we start to experience anger in our lives, right? Whenever we start to feel that anger stirring inside of us, and maybe we start to feel it, start to want to dominate, we can just say to ourselves, I can wait. We can maybe even make it into a little breath prayer where we breathe in, I can, and breathe out, wait. When we do this, what we realize is I don't actually have to say the first thing that pops into my head. I don't have to have a knee-jerk reaction. Instead, I can wait. I can be patient. And this is so important because here's what patience does for us. Patience gives us the grace and the space that we need to process this emotion. You know, the truth of the matter is anger can actually be an extremely, extremely great teacher if we let it. Like all emotions, like God gave us this emotion of anger. And it's meant to give us information whenever we feel it. However, if we suppress it by pretending like it's not there, or we let it dominate and take over and move us straight to wrath, then we don't have any space. We don't have any space for the grace to get in and help us to hear the lesson that anger is trying to teach us. And so here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about the last thing that made you angry. It doesn't have to be anything big. Right? Like it can be silly even, but what's the last thing that made you angry? And don't turn and tell your spouse, because we did that in the last service and that was not what I was asking for. No, you can talk after the service. No, but I'll tell you a silly example for me. But as you think about that last thing that made you angry, I want you to just consider, like, why did it bother you so much? So Vincent household, a couple weeks ago, we had one of those nights where we just needed a little, at the end of a meal, you know, like a little something sweet. So we had ordered Insomnia cookies, which is a wonderful and very dangerous invention, right, where they will deliver warm cookies to your door. So we had these cookies, but I had intentionally saved a cookie, right? Like I was going to enjoy my cookie at a later time. And so I went to work the next day. It was a day, and I'm driving home, and all I can think about is this cookie, right? Like, I'm going to enjoy this cookie as soon as I walk in. And the closer I get to home, like, the more that I can taste it. And as I walk through the door, I see the Insomnia box sitting there on the counter. It's like there's a light from heaven, like, shining down on it. And I lift up the lid, and I can, like, feel the joy rising up inside of me. And you know what's happened, right? Like someone has eaten my cookie in this moment. Now, why did that make me angry? Well, because in that moment, things were not as I perceived they should be, right? My expectations were going unmet. There was an obstacle, there was someone or something that was standing in the way of my desired outcome. And I'm pretty sure their name was Sammy Vincent, if you want me to name names. And I did get confirmation earlier from his grandfather that it was indeed him. But think back to that situation of yours. Like, when you got angry, what wasn't as it should be? What expectations were going unmet? Like, what was the obstacle standing in the way of your desired outcome? But then don't stop there, like dig a little bit deeper, okay? Like as you think about that, then like what does that say about what you value? What does that say about what you believe to be important? You know, in my situation, I obviously value a good cookie and being able to enjoy it whenever I want it, right? Like I value that. I believe that people should leave their other people's food alone. But if I like get again, like spend more time with it, it's like what is really going on there. It's like I want people to think about me and to consider me, right? And so if I want people to think about me and consider me, then, you know, I believe that one of the ways that they would do that is by leaving my things alone, right? So again, like anger doesn't just pop up out of nowhere, right? We experience this emotion when we perceive that like we or someone else is being deprived of something they deserve. And so what patience does is it gives us the space that we need to process. James talks about like how important this is in our lives. This is James chapter 1, verses 19 through 20. It says, "My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry, because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires." The truth is, like when we feel anger, our body goes into survival mode. We go to fight or flight, right? And so that means our heart rate goes up, it means our adrenaline goes up, but guess what goes down in that moment? Our cognitive and our rational abilities. So like we do not make the best decisions when we're angry. And so patience literally gives us the space that we need to calm down and to get back into the thinking part of our brain and then to notice and to name what's really happening in that moment. Our first instinct is to lash out so that we can make this quick escape from this uncomfortable feeling that we're experiencing. However, do you know what the root word for patience means? It means to suffer. To suffer. And so instead of a quick escape, what patience calls us to do is to stay present and to allow ourselves to suffer, to feel that discomfort of the emotion that's happening inside of us, trusting that there is treasure even there, that there is something that we need to hear, that there is something we need to learn. So again, patience gives us the space we need to process, which then can propel us to do something productive with that anger inside of us. Instead of going toward wrath, which is bent towards vengeance, patience, it guides us instead toward courage and toward compassion. It guides us toward healing and wholeness. It guides us toward life-giving transformation. It harnesses our anger to do something productive. Paul, he talks about what this looks like a little bit in the letter that he writes to the church in Rome. It's a young church, right? And there is a lot happening there. There's a lot of anger that's kind of like boiling beneath the surface. You have Jews and Gentiles who've never done life together that are suddenly trying to form this new community. And there are some hiccups, right? There are some things that each side looks at and says, things are not as they should be, or they're standing in our way of things being our way. It's interesting though, like over the years, it's just like, I wonder like how many of these things are things that could just like still happen today. Like maybe there is Gaius, the Gentile, who is upset because Julius, the Jew, dared to sit in the row that he knew good and well is really where the Gentiles always sat, right? And so he's just decided, I'm not going to come to church anymore. Or maybe there was Julia, who was upset at Claudia because Claudia talked bad about Julia's lentil soup. And so she gossiped behind her back and told everyone that Claudia, gasped everyone, she bought her bread at the market instead of making it at home. Like, who knows what they were upset about. But there were these tensions between people. And not only that, at the same time, like while they're experiencing these tensions within the church walls, there's all kinds of tension with the culture outside of them. The big, mighty Roman Empire is against the church in this moment. They're persecuting Christians. And so it's likely that there were Christians that were striking back, telling the Romans to stay off their proverbial lawn. There were plenty of things for people to perceive as not being as they should be. Plenty of things that were obstacles in their way of a desired outcome. And so there's all the potential in the world for this anger to become uncontrolled and be bent toward vengeance. However, here's Paul. He's intervening, and he's trying to create some space for grace to get in there and to allow them to process what's happening. And so in Romans 12, he talks to them about what it looks like to love one another, like Jesus talked about, right? Like to actually live out the Sermon on the Mount. He's putting flesh on the bones of that. And he's trying to help them realize, like, to live out this command to love is not something that we only do in easy times, when we're all getting along, when we all see things all the same way, when things are going well, but rather this love that Jesus calls us to is something that we're called to do even when tempers are flared and even when community is hard. And so this is what Paul says. He says, do not repay anyone evil for evil. And so again, like, be patient. I can wait. Don't lash out with wrath and let evil draw you in. Let evil get you on its side. And then he goes on, he says, be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. So take that space to process so that you can see what goodness looks like in that situation, so that you can do something productive, so that you can be propelled in the right direction towards life-giving transformation rather than vengeance. And then he says this, he says, if it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. And there's like a whole lot of qualifiers there, right? He's like, if it's possible, and as far as it depends on you. And I think that does tell us something important, okay? It tells us that, like, in any relationship, there are two people or more involved, right? And so just because we seek peace doesn't mean the other side will, and we have to be okay with that. But Paul is calling us to be the peacemaker, to be the one that at least attempts to bring peace to the situation. And then he says, do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath, for it is written, it is mine to avenge. I will repay, says the Lord. You guys, I've spent a lot of time thinking about this past week. And if I can be really honest with you all, teaching on the 7 deadly sins week after week is like really wearing me out because this is how it looks, like I start studying this and then it's like God holds up a mirror and he's like, how are you doing with that, Laura? And then it's like he gives me all these opportunities to practice, right? And so as I've been thinking about this past week, I know that I am a person who deeply believes, that God is at work in every person, every time, everywhere, all the time. I'm a person who believes that God is continually setting things right in our world, and that he will not stop until heaven and earth become perfectly one. I am a person who believes that goodness is stronger than evil, that light overcomes darkness, and that love always, 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 always defeats hate. That is the hope that grounds my life. But y'all, what is it about anger that makes us want to lose our religion in like an instant, right? I found myself like so angry about something, and suddenly all that I could think was like how I needed to like set somebody straight, right? Like how I needed to cause them pain, like they were causing me pain in that moment. I did not want peace. I wanted revenge, right? But as I started to calm down, it was this big gut check for me, because what I started to recognize is like, do I really trust that God is good, that he's at work in this situation, that he's working for the good of all of us? Am I leaving space for God to be who he is and do what he does? Or am I trying to take his job away from him in this moment? Am I able to look and see how God is at work in this situation so that I can join him and how he is working towards something that is good, towards something that's gracious, towards something that is generous? And really, that's the point of patience. It's not to be passive and just let evil run rampant. But no, instead, like, what patience is all about, the point of it is for us to participate in what is life-giving instead. It is for us to be a part of the light and the love and the light and the love instead of the darkness and the death. And so Paul, he says, on the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. In other words, stop the cycle. When we repay evil with evil, we just get more evil. But we can disrupt the cycle by doing something totally unexpected. We can interrupt the cycle by refusing to play the game. We can interrupt the cycle by taking our anger to God with patience and allowing him to show us what goodness and what grace and what generosity look like in that situation. I can't give you like a blanket example of like what that's always going to look like. That's something that, again, as we've talked about almost every week in this series, like we're going to have to navigate that with God. But what it might look like is instead of like shouting back at our neighbor, speaking a kind, calm word instead, so that there's enough space for us to discover what's really going on. Or instead of striking back at our neighbor, it might look like us looking them straight in the eye and saying, I see what you did there, and it's not okay. I want to talk about it. Or it might look like instead of like using the same tactics that someone who is hurting others is using to try to get back at them and like pointing all our energy in that person's direction, it might look like us turning our attention to the people who are being hurt, the people who are being harmed, to offer them hope and healing and a partnership to work toward truer transformation, fuller change. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Like, this sounds idealistic. It sounds pie in the sky. It sounds like some wacky reverse psychology tactics. It doesn't sound practical at all until you stop and you realize that this is exactly what Jesus has done for us. Every time we come to this table, we remember that Jesus stared evil in the face. We remember how hate broke his body and how rejection shed his blood. We remember how the world threw its very worst at him, and yet he refused to repay that in the same way, to repay evil with evil. Instead, he absorbed it, and he repaid evil with good, and hate with love, and rejection with wide open invitation, and death with life. And our world has never, and it will never be the same. Paul says, do not be overcome by evil. Don't let anger take a hold of you and lead you to wrath. But instead, patience can help us do the last part of what he says there, to overcome evil with good. Barbara Brown Taylor, she reminds us, it worked once, and it can work again whenever God finds someone willing to try it.